They say she could catch bullets with her hands, that she vanished into the trees like smoke, that she called upon spirits to protect her warriors. They call her a witch, a rebel, a queen, but we call her what she truly was, a freedom fighter, a leader, a legend. This is the real story of Nanny of the Maroons, and it's time the world heard the truth. Welcome to Jamaica's history. If you're new here, subscribe now. We uncover the hidden, the heroic, and the haunting past of this proud island. Now, let's begin. Before we can understand Nanny, we must understand where she came from. Most scholars believe Nanny was born in West Africa, among the Akan or Asante people in what is today Ghana. These were proud, sophisticated societies with deep traditions, powerful kingdoms, and complex spiritual systems. The Asante Empire, at the time of Nanny's likely birth in the late 1600s, was a rising power known for its gold, its resistance to colonization, and its strong warrior culture. Among the Akan, women played important roles. Matrilineal inheritance, where lineages traced through the mother, gave women significant authority. There were queen mothers, priestesses, healers, and in some cases, even warriors. Nanny was likely raised in a culture where women were not silent bystanders. They were spiritual and social leaders. But this powerful culture was about to be torn apart. The transatlantic slave trade, driven by European greed and colonial violence, ripped millions of Africans from their homes. Over 12 million Africans were shipped across the Atlantic between the 1500s and 1800s. Many came from the West African coast, including the region of the Asante. Nanny, like so many others, was captured, possibly during a local war or through betrayal, and sold into slavery. Shackled, branded, and forced onto a slave ship, she endured the brutal Middle Passage. Thousands died on the journey. Those who survived were forever changed. Nanny arrived in Jamaica, one of the most brutal slave colonies in the British Empire, but she would not stay in bondage for long. Nanny escaped, either alone or with a small group, and vanished into the mountainous forests of eastern Jamaica. It's here, in the Blue Mountains, that the real story of Nanny begins. High in the Blue Mountains, far from the plantations and punishment of the colonial world, Nanny and other escaped slaves began to build something powerful: freedom. These escapees were known as the Maroons, from the Spanish word chimarrón, meaning wild or untamed. But they were not savages. They were survivors, strategists, and cultural preservers. Nanny established what would become known as Nanytown, one of the major Maroon settlements in the east. Built near rivers and cliffs, these towns were naturally fortified and almost impossible for outsiders to approach undetected. In Nanytown, the people grew their own food: yams, bananas, cassava, and practiced African spiritual and cultural traditions. Oral histories, drum patterns, and folk medicine were all preserved under Nanny's leadership.
They took us from our land, but they cannot take our spirit. Our children will speak the names of the ancestors. We will dance under moonlight, not as slaves, but as free people.
Nanny was more than a leader. She was a mother to her people. She taught survival, resistance, and resilience. But she also prepared for war, because she knew the British would come. By the early 1700s, the Maroons were not just surviving, they were thriving, and the British had had enough. The First Maroon War officially began in 1728. British colonial forces launched repeated expeditions into the mountains to destroy Maroon settlements, but they were entering Nanny's domain. Her warriors used ambush tactics. They built traps, used tree cover, and lured soldiers into narrow ravines. Entire regiments disappeared in the forests. Some British officers began to believe in the legends, that Nanny could fly, that she turned bullets into water, that spirits walked with her. One British report states, "Nanny, the rebel woman, commands men who melt into trees. She is feared more than 100 soldiers." The most famous battle took place near Nanytown. Colonial troops believed they had cornered her, but Nanny's warriors struck first, using misdirection and higher ground. The enemy was routed. Her myth grew. She was said to catch bullets with her hands or her buttocks. Some said she buried magical charms that would kill any soldier who crossed them. Others claimed she vanished into thin air. Whether or not these powers were real, the effect was the same: fear. The British were rattled. Their costly war was dragging on. In 1739, the British signed a treaty with the leeward Maroons led by Cudjoe. The following year, they signed another with the windward Maroons. But there's debate about Nanny's role. Some say she had already died by then, possibly in battle. Others say she refused to sign any treaty with colonizers. Either way, the town she founded, later renamed Moortown, was granted land and autonomy. The treaty gave the Maroons 500 acres and their freedom, on one condition: they would no longer harbor runaway slaves and would assist in capturing them. This condition is controversial. Some argue it betrayed the cause. Others say it was a necessary compromise for survival. In 1976, Jamaica declared Nanny a national hero. She is the only woman to hold that title. Today, her face is on the Jamaican $500 bill. Her statue stands tall in Moortown. Her legacy lives in every Maroon child who learns the Abing, every Jamaican who fights for justice, every daughter who dares to lead. She was a warrior, yes, but also a visionary, a teacher, a mother, a mystery, a mountain.
I am not gone. I am the wind in the forest, the fire in your chest, the freedom in your blood.
So now you know the real story of Nanny of the Maroons. But her story isn't over. It lives in you. Subscribe to Jamaica's History to keep these stories alive. Comment below. What surprised you most about Nanny's legacy? Thank you for watching. One love.